when you start tapping into flirting, you're starting to tap into sexual energy, and sexual energy is one of the most powerful creation energies on the planet. And I think the more comfortable we become with our own creative energy and how we're choosing to use it and how we're choosing it to have us help mold the world around us, the better our quality of life is going to be. The more depth and richness and experience of life we're going to have. I think there's a big difference between flirting where you've actually got your sexual energy behind it, and when you're flirting purely for fun and it's about making the other person feel good.
Welcome to Two Women, Wine and a Dollop of Truth, the hilarious and insightful podcast that gets real with you about love, health, life, and celebrates what it really means to be a woman in today's society. Your hosts, Emily Chadbourne, relationship expert and creator of the Forever Love Formula, and Kelly Bowen, world champion athlete and creator of the Exceptional Living Model. Have a glass of wine or two and share what's really working.
Hey guys, and welcome to Women, Wine and a Dollop of Truth. This is episode number 7. I can't believe we're already there, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host.
Hi, it's Emily Chadbourne from That Crazy Thing Called Love, and wow, episode 7 has come around quickly.
It so has.
Insane. Time is speeding up.
Yeah, so guys, Em and I both read an article today, and we wanted to expand the conversation to you. And essentially the message that was coming out of it was there's a bit of a disconnect between women that are quite strong and independent and men, and it really comes down to the fact that we're not embracing the feminine parts of us. We're not allowing ourselves to experience, say, as inverted commas, feminine charms, and it's really causing a disconnect. So we wanted to expand this conversation, have a chat with you about why, and give you 3 healthy ways in which you can do this. And so we'll also post this article in the group as well so that you can have a look at it. But I'm just curious, Em, why do you think this is? Why do you think that we're not embracing our feminine charms?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think we've created, in our fight for equality, which I wholeheartedly support, thank you very much before I get any backlash, wholeheartedly support equality. I think in our quest for that, we have shunned what is naturally vibrant and abundant in us. And that is, like you just coined the term, feminine charm. And I really like that. I mean, I think, there's a gracefulness and an elegance to being very feminine. And I think for whatever reason, the consciousness shift has gone from seeing that as something that is a sign of weakness. And as we have conditioned ourselves as women to embrace masculinity in order to fight for our place in a very masculine world, especially in terms of business, I think we have repressed and suppressed what is naturally inherent in us. And that is, to be a little bit flirty and to be a little bit sexy and to, it's not man-trapping. It's just, there is a part of me that's flirty and it's fun. And, men love that and women love that. And yet for some reason over the past few decades, we seem to have decided that it is something that is manipulative and it's something very threatening to other women. And you just alluded to this awesome article. It's published by, is it Elephant Journal?
It was Elephant Journal. Let me just find I've got it right here. It was Elephant Journal. The article is called To the Women Who Are Never the One by Summer Eggman.
Summer Eggman. Love your work. If you are listening, fantastic article. We're going to put the link up, as Kel said, in the Facebook group. Please go and read it. I agree wholeheartedly with everything this woman says.
Yeah,
and she's
too.
done it very articulately and with a huge amount of integrity. And I really respect that. So it's a beautiful piece and I urge you all to go and read it. And I think for me, what really came out of it is that we seem to be in this place at the moment where, as women, we see that to embrace our femininity is a weakness and that we can't be independent and strong and feminine at the same time. And I think it's really dangerous ground, and it's dangerous for a number of reasons. Number one, we're depriving ourselves of that part of us, which is really beautiful, actually, and really great fun. Not only that, but it seems to be another tool in our box for us to be able to rip each other down as opposed to build each other up. And I'm going to come back to that in a second because I think it's fundamental in how we're going to grow and develop as womankind.
Yeah, I agree.
And the other thing that it does is it deprives men of that fun as well, because actually men love the flirt and the sex and I'm not talking about tarting yourself up and being, a crazy man-eater and just sleeping with anybody around and flirting like an absolute maniac. Please, I'm not talking extremes here. I'm talking well-rounded, confident, happy. Yeah, actually, my life's pretty sorted. I've got a great job. I've got great friends woman. So I'm not talking that kind of, I don't value myself in any way, shape or form. And I feel like the only thing I've got is my body. So look at me, I'm wearing a bra and hot pants. That's not the person I'm talking about in this context. I'm talking about you and me, Kel.
Yeah.
Right. So, we're happy, confident, independent women. We both run our own businesses. We're both in control. We both have quite a lot of masculine energy. And you and I have had these conversations in the past. When we go out on a date, we have to embrace a different version of ourselves so that and enjoy that and enjoy being sort of a bit flirty and a bit happy. And I think what seems to be happening is that women are looking at other women who are doing this successfully and calling them manipulators and calling them sluts or, really ripping them down for it. And I think it's a sure sign of their own vulnerabilities as opposed to genuinely thinking, oh, this woman is a tart. And I think we have become conditioned as women to look for that as something that is not a strength in us.
Yeah.
Or as a manipulation tool as opposed to something that can be really beautiful and holistic.
Yeah, well, I think the thing, like, flirting has been linked with I know we've spoken about archetypes in earlier episodes, but I think when we think about flirting traditionally, wow, it started.
Are you trying to flirt with me, Kel? Is that what this is?
I'm always flirting with you, honey. But you've left me speechless, lost for words.
Oh, I have that effect.
But when you think about the flirt, and you think about the archetype behind the flirt, which is the mistress, in terms of archetypes, and the archetype of the mistress is often, she's seen as a person to be feared, because she is she is very, very aware of her sexual power and that influence sexual power has over men. So women can often feel off center and off balance because of how this archetype in the past has been demonized. Yeah. And even if you think about it, the way that we look at, men, it's cool to be a player. If you're a player, you are so cool, man.
Bachelor, get on the boat.
Yes, spin your hat backwards, get the swag on. You're good to go.
All right, darling.
Yeah, you like the more women you shag, the cooler you are. However, as a woman, if you dare embrace that same level of sexuality, you're a slut. You're demonized straight away. So I think.
But let me say this: do you know who we're demonized by? Women, way more than men. And again, not about you can sleep with whoever you want to sleep with. It's not about going around and sleeping with lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of different people. It's just. Are you being comfortable to be in yourself enough to be able to have a bit of a flirt with a guy at the bar without feeling the judgment of the other women in that bar? Because that's where the danger is for me. The danger comes from the judgment of other women. I think it's a really dangerous place to be in. When I was at school, 15, 16, and you're just sort of working out what long hair is used for, and I used to use it for flicking, to be honest with you.
I use mine for flicking, and it's not
I do miss the flick. Short hair here, and I was quite flirty with boys, and I was beginning to really explore that kind of bit of myself. And as secondary schools are not always the nicest places in the world, I was torn down for that. And it wasn't necessarily, you're not even torn down for the stuff that you have or haven't done. You're torn down because you're overly flirty, and other girls of your age find that really, really threatening, because society has told us that it is a threatening thing to be on the good, in the good books with the boys, as it were. And that's not about necessarily kissing the boys or sleeping with the boys. It's just even being sort of really great mates and friendly, flirty mates with the boys. It's a threat at that age. And so I've been on that side of it, and I know I've also been on the other side of it. Definitely in my 20s, as I was really stepping into, a masculine energy in order to, manage my working life and living in London, there was definitely that bit of me that was so judgmental of other women when I saw them having a flirt with a guy. It was, God, women died for the vote kind of thing. And so I've kind of sat on both sides of that fence, and I really now sit in a place of actually women should be allowed to flirt and men love it and respond very well to it. And why should we deprive them of something such, so... Well,
I think with flirting, like, gosh, the way that I'm so outing myself as a flirt right now, but I tend to flirt with both men and women. But there's a difference between when I'm actually flirting and my sexual energy is behind it, and when I'm flirting from just the flirting. I think when you start tapping into flirting, you're starting to tap into sexual energy, and sexual energy is one of the most powerful creation energies on the planet. And I think the more comfortable we become with our own creative energy and how we're choosing to use it and how we're choosing it to have us help mold the world around us, the better our quality of life's going to be, the more depth and richness and experience of life we're going to have. I think there's a big difference between flirting where you've actually got your sexual energy behind it, and when you're flirting purely for fun and it's about making the other person feel good. I know we talked about it in the last episode about how to have more confidence on a date, and it was all about, we mentioned how to win friends and influence people, and it was all about getting curious about the other person and leaving the conversation with making the other person feel good. For me, this is kind of where flirting comes into it a little bit as well. Like, I know in my other role when I'm doing finance and I'm working with dealers, it's a male-driven industry. I've always got, there's that, it's one thing where I think why they respond so well to me, and I've always had great relationships with dealers, is that there's always a little bit of not over the top flirt, but just from the perspective of, I actually care to leave this conversation with you feeling good.
Yeah, and it's playfulness.
It is playful. Let's have a joke.
Playfulness. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think it's a bad thing.
And there is, and I think you're right. There's a massive difference between "come fuck me" eyes and walking out there with your tits out and your bum cheeks on show and grinding up against a guy's leg before twerking in front of his face. Different.
That's very different kind of food.
That's very different. But I think in general day-to-day life, if you. Okay, a perfect example, me 7 or 8 years ago would have looked at a guy at a bar, and then if another woman had approached him and they'd started chatting at the bar and they were having a bit of a laugh together, my initial response would have been to go to a place of, oh, what a slut. Not, good on her. She got in there before me. It wouldn't have been that. I know it's very different now because a lot has changed in 7 years in what I think and what I've experienced and who I've grown into be. But at the time, I definitely thought that. And I still feel, we can feel the judgment from other women. And it's really dangerous because if we're not supporting each other, who the bloody hell's going to?
Yeah, and I agree with you. Look, I remember going through this same process myself. I remember when I first discovered the power of my own sexual energy, I went from total late bloomer. I went from complete prude to having a complete sexual retard, I guess you'd call it, just kind of awkward. And it wasn't, I still remember when I was 21, my sister teaching me how to put makeup on my face because I just had no idea.
Your younger sister.
My younger sister, my 18-year-old sister at the time. I was like, I don't know how to do this. Can you do it? And nor did I actually care. And then I think I was round about, I'm so dobbing myself in. I would have been around about 26 where I fully started to experience my own, the power of my own sexual energy, not just the power of it, but actually one that it was there and how to use it. So then I went from being complete kind of prudish to tart off the scale. and then back to now where it's you don't walk around with your tits hanging out and your ass hanging out, but you can dress quite classy and still be able to use this energy in a way that's purely just to make people feel good and to connect with people, not in a way that needs to be shunned about it. And you're right, because I remember being the girl that was copying the comments, and I also, every now and then, I'll find myself, I'll catch the thoughts in my head, wanting to pick out that kind of behaviour, that's slutty or that's tardy. I'm like, why? Where is this coming from?
She's happy and relaxed and enjoying herself.
Yeah, she's happy, relaxed and enjoying herself.
And so is he.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember in times gone past when I used to go out in that kind of context, I would, if I was putting on an outfit and I wasn't really sure if it was maybe a bit over the top or scantily clad, my initial response to that would be, I don't want to go out and be judged. I couldn't wear a skirt too short because I wouldn't want to go out and be judged. And never once did I think in my head, the guys will be judging me. It was always the other women out there will be judging me. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. No, that's not to say.
I think there's truth behind the comment. Women don't dress for men, women dress for other women.
Yes.
Like, I've heard that one a few times. And I catch myself doing it all. Like today, I said, I'm running 5 minutes late. Why? Because I wanted to wash my hair and be pretty for you and the viewers.
Oh, thanks, Kel. And you look glorious.
Thank you, honey. But that was my point. It's not the men, it's the women that we do these things for.
Yes, because they're the people that we quite
often... They're the ones that we don't want to get judged by.
And we're talking sweeping generalizations here, of course, so we're going to be accepted.
But the thing with judgment and women, though, judgment and the feminine energy. So when it's the moment you judge a feminine energy, she will change her behavior. Because if you think back to... I know we've spoken about this a few times, but tribal times, when we were in a tribe, if you were to be judged and criticized, that means you're either not good enough, you don't belong, or you're no longer loved. And back then, that was a life or death situation. So the moment you got any feedback, any negative feedback, the programming that went into the brain, the animal primal part of your brain, was you better quick, smart change your behavior. So we've still got this program, this unconscious program playing out that we're running off and not knowing why we find ourselves maybe judging someone else or judging ourselves, because it's constantly going, well, if I behave like this, that's being told it's a social no-no, does this mean I'm not going to belong? And if I'm not going to belong, the primal part of your brain thinks it's a life-threatening situation, not you embracing your feminine woman charms and deepening connections with people, particularly your intimate connection with your partner or potential partner.
Absolutely. And I think part of the conditioning that we're under now is that we seem to be living in this sort of dichotomous era where we don't really feel like we can have it all, and the reality is that's what we've been fighting for, and it's in front of us if we want to take it. And part of having it all,
open our eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in our strive for equality, what we've done is just become masculine versions of female bodies, and that's not attractive to a guy. And the reality is most of us want to feel safe and loved and protected by the man in our lives, and yet we're not allowing for that opportunity to happen in the really initial stages. And if it's not happening in the initial stages, it's certainly not going to be there 50 years and 3 kids down the line.
No, and he will find somebody who gives it to him.
Yes.
So I think it's really important that we learn how to embrace this part of ourselves and
to know that, and to dispel the myth that you can't be vulnerable and independent and strong in the same breath, that they can't be the same thing. They're not all mutually exclusive.
No, I think they're actually
real power and a real synergy. Courage and vulnerability, and we can still go and be CEOs, and we can still own the corporate masculine world. We can do all those things, but we're still allowed to be soft and gentle and a bit more malleable, and we're allowed to flirt and to enjoy a guy's company and to exercise those beautiful versions of us that we have, which most of the time we try and subdue because we want to fit in with society, and we want a really good job, and that means being a bit more masculine in the workplace, and that's now who I am, and I shouldn't have to bow down to a guy, and I don't want a relationship, I don't need a relationship, I don't need a man. That's not working out for anybody, because a man picks up on that and he runs a fucking mile, and who would blame him? Really.
And the thing is, when we don't tap into this energy, when we don't allow ourselves to use and express our own life force energy, it shrivels up on us.
Yeah.
Like, it's part of it shrivels up and dies. Like, it's really unhealthy not to tap into this part of yourself and not to give it a healthy place of expression. So maybe we should share maybe what are three healthy ways to express this part of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, actually, just to pick up on that, I actually had a client the other day who said to me, she's a mother of 3, and she actually said, I think I've forgotten what it's like to be a woman.
Wow.
And I think that's really, yeah, absolutely. And that's not to say it's gone away, because you are a woman.
You can't lose what you are.
You can't lose what you are, but it's just a case of sometimes creating an environment and allowing ourselves to trust ourselves enough to be in that space and to be cool with it. And to learn that we are these malleable, wondrous creatures, which can be lots of different things at the same time. I consider myself to be really strong and really independent, but I'm also, quite fun and flirty, and, not in every context all the time, every day, but in appropriate contexts with the appropriate people, and because I'm feeling really awesome and solid in myself to be able to do that.
Yeah, and that too, like feeling safe with them, and also in addition to that, like, you know, I'd say I'm all of those things and a big squishy teddy bear too.
Yeah.
There's a total vulnerable sometimes damsel in distress in there as well. Like, it's not I think that we're all of these shades, but it's allowing ourselves to have these, and rather than making ourselves bad and wrong for some of them, actually embracing them and letting them have their places.
And looking at other women and going, yeah, awesome. She's getting her cake and eating it. And if you're finding yourself sitting in judgment of other women, as I have done myself and sometimes continue to catch myself to be, just remember this, that it is normally a reflection of some judgment that you hold over yourself.
Yeah.
And that can be a little bit hard to hear for some people. And for me, it took a really long time for me to actually get that message across into my brain. But it's true.
Yeah, and I think also too on that one, actually question, where is this belief coming from? So why am I judging? What's the belief behind it? So, you know, for example, if it's that I've been told this isn't how women behave. Okay, question that. Says who? Who told you that?
Yeah.
Like,
what basis of history are you looking at?
Yeah, and what I love about Vishen Lakhiani's Code of Extraordinary Mind, he talks about these beliefs as rules. They're bullshit rules. They're social rules that we've taken on, that we find ourselves living by and not questioning.
Flippantly sometimes as well.
Flippantly and not questioning. So if we're wanting to change the culture, if we're wanting to change the way that we're experiencing the world and how we're experiencing life as a woman, we need to be willing to start questioning some of these things and changing them. So I think when the criticism comes up, sometimes, absolutely, it is something within yourself that you're not accepting. But I also think on top of that too, particularly when we're talking about sexuality, because sexuality is a whole different podcast for a different episode. Like that in itself, we could have conversations on that about hours. But with sexuality, we've been shamed so much around it. So we've really got to be asking, where is it coming from? According to who? Who said that? And is this my belief, or is this something somebody else has given me? And if it's something someone else has given you, that is your moment of liberation, and it's your moment to go, well, fuck, what would I actually like to be there in its place? Yeah. Because if it's something that's been handed on to you, and I don't know about you, but I don't really like hand-me-down clothes, so I definitely don't like hand-me-down beliefs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, clothes. Actually, well, that's not true. Sometimes they're really fucking awesome, and I guess it's no different to beliefs. Sometimes they're really fucking awesome, but if it's a hand-me-down belief and it doesn't quite fit right, and you know it bags a little bit in the places that it shouldn't bag, and it's a bit tight where it shouldn't be, you know.
Yeah, you have to force yourself into it sometimes.
Yeah, no sucking in to do that zip up. Like, just get rid of it. Create your own. So let's leave them with 3 things that they can do to start healthily embracing let's put this into 3 things. 3 things you can do to start healthily embracing your feminine charm. So we just spoke about one, which is actually if you find criticism coming up and you find yourself criticizing when you're looking at another woman just being free and expressing herself and having a good time, you find the criticism coming up. 1, question, where is it coming from? Is this, as Vishen Lakhiani says, is it a bullshit rule that's being passed down to you? Where's it come from? Question it. Then you've got the opportunity to liberate yourself and change it to something empowering. 2, is this something within you you're not accepting? 3, go and give the woman a compliment. You know, get right outside your comfort zone. Tell her find something about her outfit or something that she's doing that you're admiring, and just say, hey, I really enjoying your confidence, or really like whatever. Just go say something positive to her and start building the muscle of when you're seeing women expressing themselves freely, that you're embracing it rather than being one that's criticizing, because the only way that we're going to change this criticism is if we start with ourselves. We can't control anything anybody else does. It has to start with us. So the moment we start to change that conditioning is the moment we start to make a change for everybody. So that's 1. Yeah. What's number 2?
Yeah. I think the second one is, and again, we've alluded to archetypes a few times now, is get really comfortable with the sort of sexy, flirty, vulnerable, feminine part of yourself. And it's not about dumping the strategies and the masculine energy that are getting you results potentially in the boardroom, or that kind of really strong independent woman that you need to be to raise your children, or whatever it might be. In this case, whether or not you're dating or if you're already in a relationship, here's the absolute God's honest warts and all truth. Men need to be needed. They like to feel like a man. They like to feel like our hero. And we can talk about equal pay. Of course, for me, it's a completely different subject. And it really annoys me when people try and blur the two together. This kind of like equality, feminism. We shouldn't have to put makeup on to make ourselves attractive to men. Actually, we should. Yeah. That's not true. Because if that was true, none of us would be wearing makeup, and the men would fancy the women who weren't wearing makeup over the women who are wearing makeup. And most men fancy the women who are wearing makeup. And it's not about putting a shitload of makeup on your face. It's about, is this woman, does she take care of herself? Does she respect herself? Does she value herself? Does she want to look good for me? Men want to see that.
Yeah, men are visual creatures.
Yeah, and you can deny it till the cows come home, but it's the truth. And I think while we're pushing in the extremities of feminism for this equality with a real masculine force behind us, we're really neglecting that part of what is actually really important for a man, which is, I've made a bit of an effort for you, and I'm flirting with you, and I'm enjoying this experience with you. I can still flirt with a guy till the cows come home, and the next day wake up, pay my own bills, pay my own rent, run my own business, be my own boss, be other people's boss, be a coach, be a leader. I'm all of those things. That doesn't mean that I can't go and flirt with a guy at the bar, or that because I'm flirting with a guy at the bar, my independence is somehow being questioned, or I'm questioning my own independence. So learning to step into a different flavor of yourself by go and have a listen to the podcast that we did on Archetypes. I can't remember which episode that was now.
Number 1 or 2.
Number 1 or 2. We can link it up in the comments box as well. Because learning to play around with a different flavor of yourself and to get really comfortable with that means that all of a sudden, when you see somebody else who's experiencing that particular flavor of herself, you're less likely to feel judgmental, because you're more likely to be like, she's got some great flirting techniques there. Maybe I'm going to, nick a couple of those lines that she just came out with, or whatever it might be, as opposed to that bitch might be getting something that I'm not getting because she's showing her flirty, vulnerable side, and I feel threatened by that because I'm not comfortable with my own.
Yeah. Yeah,
so work on archetypes. Go and look at women who are successful and independent and still sexy. And how do they do it? Without coming across as
and classy.
Man-eatery and classy and graceful and all those things. And we're just assuming that anyone who's listening falls into that category and isn't tarty.
Yeah. And I think the third one, this is one that we both come back to, I hear you talk about it a lot, is know your own values. So with this one, know what's important to you. So if you're going sexual energy, there's nothing wrong with, I think this is where I think sexual energy can get a bad rap, because if you're not clear on who you are, what's most important to you, and you bring in some sexual energy, that shit can get messy. Let's not pretend for a second that that's not the reality, because it can get messy. But if you know who you are, you know what your values are, you're not going to go up and find yourself flirting with a married man. You're not going to do that, because that's going to be out of integrity with your values, and that's going to cause problems. You're not going to go into a conversation with, your boss and bring your sexual energy. You might go into a conversation with your boss and bring the flirt part that's about making the other person feel good and being present and listening, but it doesn't mean it has to have sexual energy behind it. So it's knowing the difference between one, when you're actually fully engaged with sexual energy, and if you are, really be clear on who you are and what your values are, so that you know that you're not going to go home with every Tom, Dick and Harry from the bar, or that you're not going to start creating inappropriate relationships. And, being aware of, what's a gentle flirt in terms of being curious about making being interested in the other person and making them feel good, and the difference of the other. Yeah. And just being clear on who you are and what's most important to you, because if you are, you're never going to get yourself into trouble. But the moment that becomes foggy, it'll make for a good drama.
And again,
movie.
this again is, where some of the limiting beliefs and the bullshit that we hear about, women who flirt and that's where this sort of mythical tarty mistress creature has come from, is someone who doesn't have boundaries and doesn't know her own worth enough to be able to say to an inappropriate man, no, actually,
this is not
I
appropriate.
don't choose to give this bit of me to you in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, Kel.
Yeah, awesome. Well, ladies, we're going to, so in terms of, would love for you to come over into the Facebook group and let us know what you think about this. Let us know what you think about the article. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. If this is something that resonates with you, why it does. If it doesn't, why not? Come continue the conversation with us. Let's maybe share some cool little like quick flirty lines that are about making other people feel good or about engaging conversation. So let's.
I've actually done a blog about this week.
Brilliant. Let's chuck that in there.
in my face, this topic at the moment. So
yeah,
it's
awesome.
Let's throw a lot at the moment. I think it's really, really important because I think the more that we can embrace being feminine, the more we're going to allow ourselves to step into a vulnerability. And once we step into that vulnerability, the level of connection that we experience through the relationships we have, and not just the relationships that we have with a significant other half, but also our friendships and, even how we manage our relationships in the workplace and how we manage our relationships with our children. The moment that you're courageous enough to step into that vulnerability of being all the different flavors of you, and part of that flavor is being feminine. And that doesn't mean that we can't be strong and independent. The moment you step into that, and really the connection that you experience is very different. So if you're one of those women, and I was for a really long time, who had relationships but just never really had that like cell vibrating connection with another human being, it's because you haven't started it with yourself. And if you haven't got it with yourself, you cannot be expecting somebody else to come and create that for you. It has to start with self, but it is totally worth it, because when you do hit that level of, oh, actually, this is who I am, and it's not perfect, and I am vulnerable, and I am a bit scared sometimes, when you have the courage to be all of that, and all the fabulous bits as well, obviously, that's when you start really connecting on a completely different level. And even if that might even be with your current partner, there is another level of you and of your relationship. If you're willing enough, and if you're strong enough and courageous enough to go for it.
100%. And, if you're listening to this show, we're assuming that you are. So on that note, ladies, we're going to ask you to do the same 3 things that we do at the end of every show, which is 1, please comment, subscribe, please download this episode. And I'm assuming if you're listening to it, you've already downloaded it. So
Never assume, Cal.
Never assume. This is true. Leave us a review. Secondly, please come over onto our Facebook group so we can continue the conversation. And thirdly, tell all your mates. Tell all your mates about these 2 funny little girls called Kelly and Emily, who have this awesome podcast series called Women, Wine and the Dog of Truth, where we only really ever want to talk about what you want to listen about. So please get onto the Hangout, the Women, Wine, Dog of Truth Hangout. Like Kelly said, let's keep this conversation going. And please let us know if there are any topics or subject matters that you would like us to talk about in subsequent episodes. Yeah, sounds amazing. All right, ladies, till next time.
Thanks, ladies. Bye.
Bye.